is because, again, a lot of times I'm taking folks out of the can't cast, but even more so, it drops faster. And you don't have to worry about 80 backlash while it's dropping. It drops faster, it gets it down there, gets it done. When I do have folks that cast, say if we're fishing grubs or something else in the shallows and little swim baits, spinner baits, you know, I'll let them decide, do you want to throw a spinning rod or bait casting? I really don't think the fish care at all. Now, on the opposite end of that, when we're long lining, like we do in San Diego Bay a lot, we'll drift all along the channel edge. We'll drift and drift and drift and let out line. I cannot say more good things about a bait casting reel for that, especially nowadays. Almost all of our small fast type reels have a thumb bar. You know, it's not the old days where you had to hit a thing, or like the, you know, our conventional reels where you got to flip a bar over it. You just hit it with your thumb. Some of these, like this Quantum, you can put it back in gear with your thumb. I think some of the new Shimano's are doing that. I don't know if Abu's going to do it, but nonetheless, all of them go back in gear if you just hit the hammer. So if you're letting line out, it's great because all you got to do is just hit the thumb bar every once in a while as your boat's drifting. You want to let line out, do that. You want to put it in gear, or if you get a bite and you want to lean on it, turn the handle, catch your fish. So I think for that reason alone, that's a plus when it comes to using a bait caster. If you're long lining and you're letting line out with a spinning rod, it's a little more of a deal to kind of close it up, you know. And that's just that one little second. Or if you're trying to click it over with the handle, it's just sometimes you'll miss your opportunity. Whereas this is so much easier, so convenient. You can do it with one hand, have your little soda pop or sandwich, you know what I mean? Are there any questions? Sir?
Monofilament or braid band? Or?
Again, I don't think it matters. I like braid on spinning reels, especially if we're letting out a lot of line or using them in deep water, because especially I get someone who's excited, they reel in that real fast, and you know when you do that with mono, or especially even fluorocarbon, you're just going to twist that line up really quickly. You don't get that with braid. But again, I've tried them all. Me personally, it doesn't bother me one way or the other, but I think it's more user-friendly, this route. Plus, this will also double for one of the other things I want to talk about later. So let's say somebody wants to go shark or ray fishing. You know, now we're throwing a hunk of meat on there. You get that shark or ray, takes a lot of line out, all of a sudden, you're worried about spooling your reel. You can hold a lot of line on a spinning reel when you put braid on it. This is a 30-pound test, so I could move the shark pretty well with it, but at the same time, he's got a lot of freedom to move when he wants to run. You know, I've got about, I don't know, 250, almost 300 yards of line on here, because it's a 10-pound test diameter, or 8. Even. So there's a plus there. Yes, ma'am.
What kind of knot do you use braid to swivel?
I use a uni knot for just about everything. The only thing I don't use a uni knot is down here. I just do that little 8 twist, what they call that clinch knot. The reason being is sometimes this is what gets snagged, and if you just lean on it, pop it off, and you can tie on another one. But everything else I use a uni knot. I use it with because I don't have to memorize my knot work. I've got one knot, I can tie to the terminal tackle, I can tie straight to the lure, I can tie, you know, on a splice, you do a uni to uni like this, you know, it's real easy. Yes?
What's a average day like if someone were to go fishing with you, let's say in the summertime down there in the bay, and then maybe you could share one fish story, like
okay. The good one.
a big halibut or something.
There you go. Well, the average day is we start in the morning, and it's a little chilly, you'll be wearing a hoodie. At the end of the day, you'll have most of your clothes stripped off, and then we go back. So anyway. Now the more detail, somewhere in the middle, we'll catch a fish, tell a few bad jokes, have some snacks, have some waters. As far as fishing-wise, I could give you, for instance, today, and bear with me, y'all, I've been up since 4. So I did do a guide trip today. Job. I almost used that word. But I did do a trip today. And here's how it started. And it's kind of seasonal. So I'll touch on, you were more specific about summer, but So it is kind of seasonal. Right now, we've got a lot of our bay bass in the shallows, but in the little deeper area, we got the bigger sand bass and some halibut moving around in the bay right now. Halibut are kind of, they're doing the swinging singles thing, kind of meeting each other, you know, figuring out, hey, you want to go to the flats with me? So they're kind of moving around the bay doing that. And, you know, every once in a while they'll say, hey, you want to go to the flats? Ooh, sardine. Hang on a second. So that we kind of like. Today it didn't happen, but we go for that. So that's what we did this morning, especially if the tide's coming in. There's a couple spots downtown that just, they're great drifts when the tide's coming in. We started doing that, except the tide was moving so slowly. And then the wind was blowing the other way so slowly. So the boat wasn't moving much at all. So, you know, Nick's on the drift fishing. But we tried it a little bit, and then we adjusted. And that's what I do. There, you know, to answer your question, and I sound sarcastic, I really almost don't have a typical day anymore. I've got like a punch list of things I like to try, but a lot of them are on conditions. You know, and if those conditions aren't right, I've got to make adjustments quickly. I guide much like I would tournament fish. Unfortunately, I don't tournament fish anymore like I would tournament fish. But as the last open bay bass tournament results would show. But anyway, what we did, we started doing just that. We started downtown, started a little deeper water, getting that drift going because it was on incoming tide. Now, if the tide's up, I'm going to do exactly opposite of San Diego Bay. And give you guys a real quick little history on San Diego Bay, the Reader's Digest version. San Diego Bay is basically two different fisheries. And I know you could even probably subdivide it even more so, but just to keep it simple. You've got what guys call the North Bay, which is actually west, northwest a little bit, good, heavy side of the bridge. The outbound side from where Coronado Bay Bridge is. That's deep water, that's been dredged, that was not naturally deep water. Rumor has it when Juan Cabrillo came to San Diego, his first words were, "My Lord, she's a shallow." So that's all been dredged. That's been done back in the late 20s, early 30s. They started dredging that because tuna fishermen were saying, hey, we need bigger boats, but they didn't have a deep enough bay for bigger boats. There was so many tuna. So they started dredging it, and the Navy decided this is a nice bay. We want it. So they started helping out with the dredging. It kind of filled in Coronado Islands, you know, all that jazz. But anyway, so that end of the bay, you could be right up against the rocks in some places, like around Shelter Island, Harbor Island. You'd be in 25 feet of water because they dredged it. And then the channel, they dredged even deep because the ships are big. South end of the bay, or the opposite side of the bridge, from say, you know, Glorieta Bay on down to Chula Vista, you could be in the middle of the bay and be at 9 feet of water because they pretty much left that alone, except for the shipping channel, which is easy to find. Just look where all the big Navy ships are. And you got NASCO and you got the Navy yards. That's deep. Now there's areas where it kind of does like a false drop, starts dropping 25, 30, and then you get to the channel 45. But like I said, you could be in some shallow water. Now when the tide's up in San Diego Bay, that's when we like to go shallow. Especially if you're chasing spotties and halibut, because they'll get up in those shallows. And we've caught some 30, 40-inch halibut in like 9 feet of water. I mean, it's just amazing. And then you go out in 45 feet of water and you catch one this big. So they're all over that bay. And the bay bass alike. I mean, you could be right up under a dock, catch one this big, or you could be out in the middle of nothing, grass and mud, and catch a 2-pounder. You know? So they're all over the bay. And that's what I do. So I kind of, you know, again, it's really hard to be totally typical, but as far as fishing, we're always looking for it. Because my mantra on San Diego Bay is they're always biting something somewhere. And if you're not catching fish, move. And that's something I do on my boat, and that's something I preach to folks on your boat. If you're out there and you're on the bay, you're not catching fish, you do not have to bribe them. You know, you can dip all the scent you want. You could put live bait on it. If you're not catching fish, they're not there, or they're not biting there. They're just under a rock with lockjaw. Move, because they're biting somewhere else. I can almost guarantee it. That bay is 14.5 miles long, and we all know current is everything. That water is always moving. No matter how much the chart says it's slack tide, you go somewhere in that bay, you'll find current. It's moving somewhere, and those fish in that area are moving. And sometimes you can do that. You can just follow the current. You know, how many folks have Lowrance with insight ships? Lowrance fish finders. You got this Lowrance. If you got a Lowrance, get an insight ship. get the upgrade if you don't have it. If you're looking for a fish finder, get a Lawrence with an Insight chip, or if you like other brands, make sure they have a similar product. What the Insight chip on the Lawrence does, I can go in my GPS and they've got a little blue box that has a C in it. I click on that and that tells me what the current's. There's another little blue box that has a T. I can click on that, it tells me what the tide's doing. Now there's about 4 different tide stations in San Diego Bay. And I can click on those and find out what the tide is. You know, because you could be, like, so let's say Point Loma, high tide could be 11 o'clock. A high tide down at J Street might have happened at 10:30.
How does it read your current? Is it just the sonar technology?
It updates it via sonar, via GPS, but it's pretty much, it's charted, pre-charted, just like your tide book would be. But it updates it while you're on the water. So it's, you know, whether or not it's 100% accurate, I don't think so, but it's enough to give you a generalization.
And it will tell you what direction it's moving?
Yes, exactly. I've got mine, you can set up different color tones. I got mine, incoming current is blue, outgoing current is yellow. So if I'm looking at, you know, if I'm looking to see if the current's moving, and it'll give you velocity. So I may have, like I'll be in one area where it's slowed down to maybe 0.1. I could look at another area, might be going 0.25. If I'm not getting bit at 0.1, I might run to that other area to see if they're biting at 0.25.
That's
So
good too.
It's
Does
a good
Garmin
thing to have.
products have that?
I'm not familiar with other products. I'm sure, you know, something like that isn't going to be held back. I'm sure somebody else has something similar, but I know when it comes to Lawrence, they call it Insight, and you get Insight USA. Some of the units you buy automatically have that, and then there's an upgrade pack you can get.
How many thousands of dollars does that cost?
You know what? They have it from their small unit on up, believe it or not. So it will GPS
You got the widescreen one?
No, actually, I run a 7-inch model. I've got the HDS 7, so that was what, maybe a $1,400 unit. I paid the extra, got the down scan. Structure scan is great if you guys, you know, looking for a toy to upgrade to. Great. You don't need it, you know, but it's fun to have, and it's amazing some of the stuff you can find. Things that I thought were just humps, find out they're sunken sailboats. You know, but just a hump is enough information for the most part. But it is neat to look at. But yeah, but that, like I said, that Insight really helps. And if you don't have Insight, or you know you're not ready to do any upgrade like that, you can go to NOAA's website and get a lot of current information too. So all you got to do is just go to NOAA.gov or whatever, and you can pull up a current thing. And again, it's a pre-charted thing, what they're predicting it's going to be like. But it also gives you different stations. So it won't give you as much as the Lawrence will, but let's say you've got Point Loma, then you've got downtown area, I mean Gloria Bay, and then you've got National City. That's enough reference for you to at least figure it out.
Do you like San Diego Bay more than Mission Bay? If you were just going to target spotties?
No, if I was just going to target spotties for a person who can cast, we're going Mission Bay. I think they'll have more fun catching. You should catch them on a lot of different baits there. And so and I could talk about that. The things I call vanity baits, like crankbaits, jerkbaits, bitter baits. You know, to me, those are vanity baits. I mean, really, to me, it doesn't matter what I catch a fish on, but if you look at the board, especially, you know, these teens that are really getting into all the jazziness of fishing, I just love guys like, I caught my first spinnerbait fish today. Woo. You know? but I know that feeling too, because I was that kid. So I know it. So to me, it's kind of like a checkup. Ooh, I caught a spinnerbait fish. But you know, I throw a grub most of the time. Catch fish, who cares, right? So I call those vanity baits. These are the go-to everyday type stuff here. Little lead heads with a plastic, whether it's a grub or a swim bait. But when it comes to just getting people hooked up on fish, I'll go San Diego Bay. I think Jason and I were talking about this over dinner, probably 80+% of the time. Because someone who doesn't even know how to cast and catch fish in San Diego Bay, they've got the drifting opportunities. And like I said, you've got the deep water, shallow water, so we can always go find them. Mission Bay, it's kind of almost a one-trick pony sometimes. You know, it's obvious there's a lot of eelgrass, but there's a lot of eelgrass. It's like telling somebody to go to Newport and fish around the boats.
Where do you usually, or would you prefer to launch out of for you guys?
I try to launch as close to where we're going to be fishing. And a lot of that is based on the previous trip, you know, or maybe some type of almanac type. Like if I remember, okay, this time of year they should